If you thought Bluey was for the whole family, you're wrong, friends. There are several episodes that definitely go overboard with violence. There are even family fights, abuse, bullying, and chili thrown on the floor countless times. Let's see which are the most violent episodes of Bluey. Let's start with the least violent of all. It's called Dad Robot. Here, Bluey and Bingo take advantage of their dad robot so they don't have to clean their playroom because they're both really lazy. Basically, they make him their slave. But after they confuse their dad robot systems, their dad robot decides he has to throw them in the trash. What a smart dad robot. Anyway, to turn him off or stop him, first they spray water on his face. And this doesn't work, so they have to poke him several times. Bandit, also known as Dad Robot, was complaining, indicating he was bothered by something. We'll give this episode a rating, a violence level, because they threw Bandit like a sack and then poked him a few times. But why don't we go to a slightly more violent episode? Barbecue seems like an excellent episode to me, in which Bandit got what he deserved several times. And what happened here? Bluey, Socks, and Muffin took advantage of poor Bingo to make her go get their salad, while Bingo just wanted to relax in her chair. Gamer! Well, here friends, life decided that Bandit would get his karma and suffer along with Bingo. First they throw a bug in Bandit's face, then he gets hit hard on the head with a tamarind, and finally, Stripe gets sprayed with water in the face. Oh, and of course, let's not forget when Bingo falls face first into the mud and gets water poured on top. I think the most violent thing here was when Bandit got hit on the back of the neck with the tamarind. His brain definitely got reset after being the robot dad. We give this episode a level 2 for violence, especially because of the skull fracture Bandit had. And get ready friends, because we're just getting started with this violent stuff. Yoga Ball? It was a somewhat violent episode, not because it was full of blows to the back of the head like a brawl, but because the violence was directed at poor little Bingo. I'm sure many of you remember how Bandit throws her onto the bed like a sack of bricks, and the poor thing lands on her face. He slams her pretty hard onto the yoga ball, and to top it off, knocks her down with the ball at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. And friends, let me tell you that 3-year-old girls are not made of lead and steel. As Bandit thinks they are very fragile. So here Bandit really went overboard with his violence toward poor Bingo. We give him 3 points for violence for going too far with a young girl. He even made her cry, for heaven's sake. But friends, before we get to the episodes, which yes, really do get pretty extreme, let's do a quick honorable mention. And I'm talking about the episode Fairies, when Bandit smacks his painting stuff with a stick. Wow, Bandit really wanted to mess up those poor fairies. Imagine how Tinkerbell would have felt if Bandit had hit her on the head with that stick. The Magic Asparagus. Even though it's an innocent episode, it has a few things that make it a bit violent. And it all starts when Bluey turns Bingo into a piglet, because this piglet is a wild pig that, without thinking twice, goes crazy and charges straight at the pantry. And when Bluey wants to calm all the animals down from doing crazy things, he turns them into peacocks. But of course, Bandit starts getting all lovey-dovey with Chili. So Bluey has the great idea to turn Chili and Bingo into lionesses. So, did she want them to eat poor little Bandit? Well, the poor peacock has to hide in his tree. And Bluey throws him down from above to turn him into a walrus. Bluey didn't even care how Bandit felt about this fall. Then the lions start biting Pat and even drag him away to eat him. Wow! In fact, it seems like a miracle that dogs evolved in Bluey's world, since you can see how extreme the wild animals are there. Here, we'll give it 5 points for violence, for the simple fact that if Bluey hadn't stopped Chili and Bingo lionesses, they probably would have ripped all the skin off Pat and eaten him. The episode Tina starts to take us to the levels of violence of a Dragon Ball episode. Here, Bluey and Bingo create an imaginary friend who basically forces Bandit and Chili to do whatever the girls want. The violence starts when Tina pins Bandit to the ground with a wrist lock, and as soon as Bandit gets free, he hits Tina in the face with a frying pan. I didn't know you watched La Familia Peluche, Bandit. Blue? Excuse me, doctor. After that, they step on and kick Bandit's butt. And this just keeps getting more and more violent. Friends? Since the girls don't want to take a bath, they drag Chili and lock her in the closet so she'll stop bothering them. Who does that to their mom? Hold on though, in other episodes they treat Chili like complete garbage. While the girls watch television, Bingo goes to the bathroom but refuses to wash her hands. And therefore they throw Chili onto the couch, like in wrestling. Here begins the fight of the year, folks. So, if you ever, for any reason, wanted to rough up Chili and Bandit to steal their old car, think twice. Bandit takes advantage and hits Tina in the face. They throw them to the ground and give them a good beating. And to make everything more dramatic, Chili opens the door like Leon from Resident Evil, kicking the zombies. They throw Tina into the car, and even Bandit gets all intense, telling Wendy to go take a hike. Didn't you see anything? Wow, guys, I didn't know Chili and Bandit could knock your head off in just a few seconds. And the violence doesn't end there, guys. Tina then exits the car and delivers a karate chop to Chili's face. And she throws her butt first to the ground. She puts Bandit in a police hold on top of the car and finally gives him a good handshake. Wow, friends, imagine that you have to pitch this episode idea to someone. Are they going to say that you're all messed up in the head and that you should go see a psychologist? Tina definitely gets 6 violence points, and I know that for many people, after analyzing it, they'll think she should have more violence points. But anyway, guys, this episode is in this spot because even though it was very violent, actually almost nobody got hurt. Tina is imaginary. But because of the number of extreme things that happened, it really does carry a lot of weight. Compared to previous episodes, Hospital is one of the first episodes we watched of Bluey, and I'm noticing a very common pattern here. And I think the first season was the most violent of all. Here we have one of the few times when Bandit gets upset with Bluey's violent attitude. I say this because other times he just tolerates it without saying anything. And it's because since she's the doctor, she keeps poking Bandit mercilessly. She smacks the respirator on his nose, uses the mixer on his belly, and even hits him with a hammer without caring about how he feels. It has even become one of the episodes somewhat disliked by people. Because Bluey keeps bothering Bandit and of course being violent towards him. Here we could clearly hear the pain that Bandit felt because of this. And they are now directly attacking his parents. Let's give it a score of 6 points. Because even though there weren't that many hits and drags, Bluey did hit him pretty hard with her pecks and smacks, enough for Bandit to yell at her. The episode magic is starting to get a bit extreme on our list of the most violent Bluey episodes. And that's because it's practically a violent fight between mother and daughter. It all starts because Bluey uses magic for her own benefit. First, she makes Bandit and Pat dance, and in the end, she throws Bandit on top of Pat. And here, Bandit even tells her that his back hurt.
Oh, my back.
Then Chili realizes that the girls are using magic, so she throws poor Bandit and Pat over the fence, without mercy. Wow, now we know where the girls learn to be violent. And this is where the bloody fight begins. Bluey throws her mom to the ground so she has to fall in the mud. Then Chili throws Bluey onto a couch, which makes her do an extreme somersault, and she lands on the floor head first. Bluey throws Chili to the ground, drags her around, and then throws her onto the couch again. Then Chili throws Bluey, and Bluey throws her to the ground so hard that she even slides. Again, Chili throws Bluey, and again Bluey throws her to the ground. Chili throws the stuffed animal in Bluey's face and throws her onto the couch once more. Wow, is there really that much hatred between Chili and Bluey? I say this because here Bluey threw Chili to the ground 5 times in a row, and Chili, not to mention, also threw her daughter several times. But the violence doesn't end here, friends. Finally, Bandit arrives and they throw him at Chili with the full force of the law. And here Bluey wants to take all the power. She even gets violent with Bingo by throwing her against the wall in a very sadistic way. But Justice arrives and Bingo throws Bluey onto Bandit's big body with all her 200 kilos. Wow guys, I think this is the most violent fight the Healer family has ever had. They threw themselves to the ground, hit each other, and basically showed that they don't respect each other. That's why we rate Magic with 8 points for violence. And now friends, let's see which is the most violent episode in all of Bluey. Well, this time there weren't any fights, but rather some extreme mistreatment of the poor guy. In the episode The Hairdressers from the show The Bandit, Bluey and Bingo are playing hairdressers. And poor the Bandit, he has the brilliant idea to come in and say his name is Bert, going by the name Bert. When they were checking his head, the girls say that he has lice. Which makes Blue jump at Chili and knock her to the ground once again. Oh, once again, Chili with her old friend, the floor. First they force Bandit to get into the shower, but he has to use cold water, which makes him very uncomfortable and makes him suffer. As soon as they get out, they hit him with the fly swatter and even hit him several times with a hammer. The beating is so bad that they throw him to the ground and they still keep hitting him. And that's not enough, friends, because then they bring the wooden bird and still keep pecking at him. After such a beating, Bandit says that the lice are gone now and asks them to please leave him alone. But since Bingo can't find her voice and say what she wants herself, they force poor Bandit to keep having lice so they can give him the beating of his life. You can clearly see on Bandit's face how he's really suffering and doesn't want to keep playing lice at all. But after they bullied him and forced him to suffer, they hang him upside down and mercilessly throw water balloons at him. Then they throw flour at him and hit him all over his body with the rake, so that he ends up on the ground unable to get up. And to top it all off, for the beatings they gave him, they charge him $1,000?
It's only $1,000, please.
$1,000 for making you see the Virgin while you're still alive. Oh guys, if they do this to Bandit while they're still little, what will they do to him if they get mad at him when they're grown up? Due to the abuse and violence towards the innocent Bandit. Definitely, this takes the trophy for the most violent episode of all, Bluey. Or what do you guys think? Do you think Magic or Tina should be in first place? What other episode do you think is violent? See you in the comments.